And at the top of the list for us is Wisconsin hiring Luke Fickell away from Cincinnati. And I think that's an outstanding fit. It is a man who played in the Big Ten, coached in the Big Ten, has ties to Ohio State, understands what the brand does, and understands what Wisconsin was capable of when Wisconsin was humming right along. He also has a defensive background. That's what they want to do. They want to be able to run the ball and play defense. I think he can recruit the area well. I'm really going to see if he can hold on to Braylon Allen. That would be job number one for any guy that not named Jim Leonhard coming into that job. And I'm just going to say I feel bad for Jim Leonhard on this. It felt like it was his to lose, and he lost it, right? We'll see what happens. Maybe they just flip-flop. Maybe Jim Leonhard becomes the head coach at Cincinnati, and Luke Fickell gets things going in the way that he wants at Wisconsin. But it's a home run hire, and it mostly makes the Big Ten an even more stacked conference, because that's a great way for me to lead into, yeah, we got to talk about Matt Rhule taking the job at Nebraska, something we haven't been able to do on this show. I did not believe Matt Rhule would get off of his couch where he makes $40 million for sitting there and wearing out the cushions to go coach football, let alone at Nebraska. And that's not a dig at Nebraska, because you have the assets there to be great. We just haven't had a coach in some time be able to put those assets together and make you great. It is to say it's a job. It's hard damn work trying to make a bad football program into a good football program. But if there is a change agent in college football, it is Matt Rhule. What he did at Temple cannot be overlooked. What he did at Baylor made his name. He took that program from not just being bad at football, but its reputation was bad in the sport and bad in sports, and flipped that into the kind of place that people want to go to school. People want to send their kids to school, and then took this job at Carolina. Didn't go the way that he wanted to go, but he's going to make $40 million to not coach football for 2 years, only to find out a couple months later, yeah, he's going to be coaching football again and in the Big Ten. I was going down the list, man. It's going to be stacked here by 2024. Think about it. You're going to have ostensibly Ryan Day, Jim Harbaugh at the top of the list for Michigan and Ohio State. But then if you want to just talk about adding Lincoln Riley, USC is one win away from playing in the college football playoff. UCLA won 9 games this year, and Chip Kelly doesn't seem like he wants to go anywhere. I go up and down this conference, and I'm going, yeah, that coach can coach. That coach can coach. All these dudes have what it takes to win the Big Ten championship, and that's really what excites me about a 16-team Big Ten conference. Everybody feels like they're in play, right? Now, you got to have to do some work at places like Rutgers or even Maryland, but everybody is in play. Nobody is a pushover anymore. And frankly, it's no longer Ohio State's conference. We learned that on Saturday. The defending Big Ten champions went into the shoe and handed the Buckeyes a terrible L, and that we haven't seen in years. I think the parity for this conference is returning in some way, and how they ever get rid of divisions, then it's going to be a party. Because then we're going to see back-to-backs. We're going to see Ohio State, Michigan. We're going to see Penn State and maybe Michigan State. We're going to see Minnesota have an opportunity to climb up there. I mean, I'm very excited about what this league is going to be in the future and just what the coaching prowess is going to be like. And let's see how they recruit, right? Because early in the year, we had talked about this, not so much during the season, but we're down to a Power 2 now, folks. It's the SEC and the Big Ten. 2 16-team leagues with outstanding coaching pedigrees, with outstanding recruiting footprints, one above the Mason-Dixon line, one below the Mason-Dixon line. Read into that what you will, because I'm gonna have a great time watching these two conferences go at each other's neck each and every year. On the way out quickly, Arizona State hired Oregon offensive coordinator Kenny Dillingham to be their next head coach. Great news for him. He's an Arizona State alumnus. 32 years old, offensive coordinator at Oregon for a year, ends up head coach at Arizona State. Dan Lanning, by the way, doesn't turn 37 until April, and he's already got a coaching tree, which is kind of phenomenal. And then you take a look at how guys have been developed, thinking about Dan Lanning being at Georgia and or Alabama, and Kenny Dillingham being very close with Dan Lanning. You could see how everything seems to be running back through Tuscaloosa and or Athens. Now, as we talk about a change into the garden, maybe the way that Michigan is taking over the Big Ten is the way that we'll be talking about Georgia and the SEC here. They win another national championship, because it feels like, yeah, they're going to give Alabama everything they want for the rest of Nick Saban's tenure. And we'll see how long that lasts, but we know that the man wants to coach until he's 150. David Shaw resigned from his post at Stanford following the end of their season. He just said it was time. He felt that he could no longer do any good or as much good as he had in the past. And I full credit to him for looking around and going, am I the best person to lead the Cardinal into 2023? And really having a great discussion with himself and laying it out, saying, I'm not really interested in coaching football in the near future, but I know that I'm not the person to coach at Stanford right now. And now for me, that's going to be taking some getting used to, because David Shaw's been at Stanford for a long time. I think I came up in college and he was just taking that job because he was offensive coordinator with Jim Harbaugh before Jim Harbaugh, I think, left Stanford to go to 49ers. But it's been some time since the director of football at Stanford was somebody not named David Shaw. And really, we'd gone from making fun of that name and that role to only seeing him in it. And I think that that's really, really cool. And I wish David Shaw the best. I'm also interested to see what that coaching hiring search looks like, because Stanford's in it, Colorado's in it, USF's in it, Auburn's still in it. We got some moving and shaking that we got to work out here in the next couple of weeks. And as we can, we'll talk about it here on the #1 college football show. On the way out, I'm off the plane. I'm headed home, trying to get here to put this show in front of you. And I had a bunch of text messages, frantic text messages, panic text messages from kids, players. They're not kids anymore, players, men that I've come to know since they were in high school, and their parents, folks that I don't talk to necessarily for news, but I talk to understand what it is they're up against, what the sport is like for them, and to try to be of service when I can. And I want to impart to you, as we're talking about head coaches and we're talking about salaries and we're talking about guarantees and who got fired, who didn't. That sucks, right? Because you're not just changing a head coach, you're changing an entire organization, an entire program. You also have players that don't know what is going to happen next, who also have to finish classes, who also have to take finals, who have to find a way to feel good about their future as they're trying to push into whatever it is that college football is going to bring. Is we're trying to make sure the transfer portal is equitable, right? While also saying, hey, look, kids, give us a chance here. We're going to figure it out for you. And sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. What I'm saying is love them. And that's what I'm trying to do as we go through this process that is kind of exciting, because we're talking about new faces and new places. But there are 85 scholarship players and an untold number of walk-ons that are hanging on every word and every tweet too. And I just wanted to put that in front of you, because sometimes we just miss it.